I'm Lisa Brennan.
And I'm Justin Trice. Welcome to Crime of the Arts.
A true crime podcast that peeks behind the curtain to shine a light on the dark and untold truths of the creative arts.
From film set mysteries to celebrity murders and art heist, these two theater nerds will usher you into the unknown.
Today, I'm going to tell you the story about Girls Gone Wild Exposed.
And I'm going to tell you the story about Mel and Mee. Not me specifically, but M-E-E. We're going to get into that later.
Are you sure it's not you?
Who knows? Could be. Is it?
So, disclaimer for the world. Justin and I record remotely because Justin lives in New Jersey and I live in Tennessee. So we're all safe and everyone's fine. But I'm recording with COVID today. It's finally caught up to me.
She
me and my poor little son.
COVID card. Yeah. COVID-free card. Yeah.
So excuse my raspiness. And we're just going to push through. Go team.
She's a trooper.
Got my water and my DayQuil. Hit it.
Let's do it. So, I realized I never mentioned the Mel. Some of you are probably like, Mel Brooks? He's a criminal? No, it has nothing to do with Mel Brooks.
Right. Which
it has nothing to do with Mel Brooks' comedic genius. No, it's actually about Mel Gibson, folks. You know, famous American actor, producer, film director. We all know he's faced his fair share of controversy throughout his long career. And he started out his acting career in the 70s and was able to get his first taste of that mainstream success when he starred in a leading role for the first Mad Max film, which eventually became a series. From there, he was able to catapult himself into fame and superstardom through his appearances in a string of hits such as Lethal Weapon, Braveheart. I mean, come on. Yeah, listen.
These are like top movies ever. Braveheart, Lethal Weapon. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yes, The Patriot.
The Patriot.
Which I love that movie, honestly.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's so good. Sometimes I like it better than Braveheart. I know that's blasphemy, but it just, that time period speaks to me more.
Oh my God. You just pissed off so many people, Justin.
That time period speaks to me more. Plus, Jason Isaacs is a badass. And let's not forget Heath Ledger's introduction to the world. He was Mel Gibson's son in that.
I don't remember that, but I guess I'll have to go back. Me and my COVID self will lie in bed and watch Patriot today.
You're going to be like, this is a long-ass movie. What am I doing? But besides acting, you know, Mel Gibson was also known for directing, and everybody knows he got his critical acclaim with directing Passion of the Christ, Apocalypto, and most recently Hacksaw Ridge with Andrew Garfield, which ended up winning 2 Academy Awards.
I think I'm going to have to do an episode on the Passion of the Christ. I'm going to have to do an episode on the Passion of the Christ. Didn't like all these crazy things happen when they were filming that movie?
A lot of things did go down on that set. And Jim Caviezel, I know he endured a lot, literally, that role.
I'm sure.
So
he was Christ. Yeah.
I have to cover that. So, yeah, before I get into what went down with Mel and Mee, let's talk about Mel Gibson as a whole. You know, he was born back in January 3rd of 1956 in Peekskill, New York, which is, for those who aren't familiar with it, it's just 50 miles from New York City. And he was the 6th child out of 11 children. That's a lot.
Too many children.
Too many children.
Too many.
He was the middle child too. That's got to add to things.
Oh God. I have 1 child and I'm so tired. I cannot imagine 11.
11. And his father...
She must have been pregnant for over a decade.
That's insane. Like, to really think about, especially what she put her body through but his father was Hutton Gibson, who was an Irish-American writer and World War II veteran who also happened to become a grand champion on the popular game show Jeopardy! A little bit of trivia for you. I would have never called that. Oh
my God, a little fun fact there.
I know some of you, the moment I said Mel Gibson's name, you guys have probably already thought about some of his Hollywood outbursts or exploits. And now you're probably listening to this back history going, it's all starting to add up. Middle child, right. Daddy was a fucking grand champion on Jeopardy!
So a grand champion is when they win and then they beat other champions.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's just no winning for him in that scenario, right? So you're already like mediocre, middle of the pack of 11 kids. And then your dad is a fucking genius and he's a super grand champion of whatever Jeopardy.
Ridiculous.
There's just so many standards to not be able to meet.
Exactly. And because of his mother, who was born in Ireland, he was able to hold dual citizenship from both the US and Ireland, along with establishing permanent residency in Australia because of his relation to his paternal grandmother, who was Eva Milet, an Australian opera singer. So like this guy's just, again, he was just dripping in talent. Like your dad's clearly very brilliant, you know, grandmother's over here, opera singer, all these things. His younger brother, Donald Gibson, was also an actor who was able to star in minor roles. Some of the films that Mel did, like Braveheart, Maverick, and Conspiracy Theory.
I love when they do that.
Yeah.
I know that Casey Affleck sort of stands on his own, but I've always appreciated the sibling dragging.
I like when people do that too.
The nepotism, but it's beautiful.
Well, it's like Vin Diesel, you know, back when he was still fit. He has a twin brother. His twin brother would kind of be his stunt double for half his films.
I mean, it makes perfect sense to me.
After his father won a work injury related lawsuit against New York City Railroad in 1968, the family decided to relocate to the suburbs within Sydney, Australia. It was like, let's just get up. We got all this money. Let's just get up and go to Australia. Let's
That's Long Island, suburbs of New York. We're going to go across the entire world to Australia.
With all 11 kids, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the suburb they were in was West Pymble. When Mel was about 12 years old, that's where they went. So it was during his time, because I know some people are probably listening and they're like, I'm pretty sure he's Australian. He has an Australian accent. Mad Max was Australian. Now you know how he ended up within Australia. But he wasn't born in Australia.
Yeah, shows you how clueless I am, because I literally have never even thought about him being an Australian actor. I guess I just keep watching all these movies where he has an American accent, and I just kind of assume that's what he sounds like.
You're so used to it. But whenever you see him outside these interviews, just a very harsh accent. Like his is very thick.
Okay.
But yeah, it was during his time in Australia when he was able to get his first start into acting, basically, when he was able to land the role in this Australian TV series called The Sullivans back in 1976. Back then, that was like a huge television show. The following year, he was able to secure his first movie role in the American drama I Never Promised You a Rose Garden. At the end of the day, you're probably like, I never heard of this, because it was an uncredited role. He was basically like a baseball player in the background, but he became featured background. It was a whole thing. So after that film, years later, 1979, like 3 years later, he got his big break when he was able to land Max Rockenstansky for the Australian classic Mad Max, which was so successful they released Mad Max 2 just 2 years after, subsequently turning the franchise into a series. So that's what sent him into the stratosphere. And then once the 80s and 90s came around, he was able to cross over into more American movies while still appearing in some of the Australian ones as usual. And he found a lot of consistent roles in blockbusters. Like he was just the blockbuster magnet. Every American film he did back then was a hit. You know, the most, I guess it's debatable, but his most well-known role crossing over was Martin Riggs in Lethal Weapon franchise. Yeah.
How is that debatable?
I know, right? I feel like some people still dispute that. They're like, Mel Gibson wasn't on top till Braveheart. I'm like, do you not realize all the shit Mel Gibson did before we even got to 1992 or 94? Oh my God. I'm like,
seriously,
the man. Yeah, no.
Well, and the thing about him, if you go on his IMDb, you see a wide range of types of movies, right? He knows no bounds. He's like, what? That looks interesting. Sure. What, you want me to have a beaver puppet? That sounds great. Let's do that movie too. I'm going to direct myself as a psycho in a beaver movie.
I kept seeing pictures of that. I still have yet to watch that. I've never watched it. But
I don't know that you should really go out of your way.
And it's always the same picture. It's like him looking bewildered as the beaver is probably angry at him or cursing him out.
Angry at him.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, you're pretty accurate.
Oh my goodness.
Pretty spot on. I don't think you need to see that movie, Justin. I think you've already seen it somewhere.
Well, if I get drunk enough, I might watch it still. We'll see. The night is young. We'll see where it leads.
True that.
But yeah, so Lethal Weapon, that's the the role everybody knows it for.
I agree.
And it's still considered a pop culture classic to this day. I mean, it's practically the main blueprint for fucking buddy cop action films, like if there ever was such a thing.
Isn't the time coming around when they should be remaking Lethal Weapon soon too? Which did Top Gun.
Probably. I mean, anything is possible. There was that Lethal Weapon show a couple of years ago, and now's the time. But to be fair, Danny Glover already, to me, he was already like 50 in that film, looking like 70. I don't know if I want to see 90-year-old Danny Glover. He's probably not 90, folks. I'm knocking, but he's been around for a long time. I know he's up there, maybe early 80s. I don't know if I want to see that.
Maybe I haven't seen the new Top Gun yet, but I'm imagining
it's amazing.
It's amazing. I need to get my butt in the movies and see it.
Yes.
But I don't know Tom Cruise's like how involved he is, but I imagine you could just cameo Danny Glover's old ass a little bit in a new Lethal Weapon movie.
Well, you are in for a shocking treat when you watch Top Gun Maverick. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Oh, God.
It's good. Definitely see it in theaters.
Tom Cruise just doesn't age. He's got Scientology magic. He doesn't age at all.
He doesn't age. And I mean, his Scientology work ethic, the man's flying them planes. He's making them fly those planes. The stunts he continues to do are just so suicidal. But listen, anyone will tell you in Hollywood, when it comes to stunt actors, they always say Tom Cruise is the best stunt driver. He's one of the best stunt actors since he does everything himself. Like,
I was just looking at some list before, and it was saying how there's like another Mission Impossible movie coming out next year.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Does this man fucking sleep? Like, he's just constantly making things.
He clearly doesn't sleep. In every Mission Impossible, I'm like, how can you top the previous stunt? And when I saw the trailer,
how many are there? Do you have any idea? There's got to be 5 million of them.
Yeah, there's 6.
There's only 6.
Yeah, this will be the 7th coming out.
There's 15.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
But it gets crazy. But going back to Mel, I just hear an angry Mel voice in my head. He's like, "This is about me. This is
fuck Tom Cruise.
You're talking about me here." So yeah, that Lethal Weapon was the thing. For argument's sake, Lethal Weapon was what put him on the map in America. It was after, I believe, like the first or second film. That's when he decided he's going to start his own independent production company, and it was called Icon Productions. And this was a way for him to start trying to produce and direct films. And he was able to make his debut as a producer when he released his own movie version of Hamlet back in 1990, which I don't know if anyone has. Lisa and I had to see it, obviously, because we're theater majors. So it's just something that you take a look at. But if you're wondering, this isn't like a Denzel thing. Like, Denzel came from theater. Denzel understands Shakespeare. If you're expecting this to be like, oh, Mel Gibson's really has an understanding of Hamlet, no. If you are looking for a fucking high level action film that's just disguised as Hamlet, by all means, like, he's basically playing Martin Riggs, but as Hamlet, and it actually works really well. It's pretty bloody.
It's pretty ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. A high-level action movie disguised as Hamlet almost made me pee my pants.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
You should have written the description for the IMDb.
It's pretty accurate, and in some ways, it's so 90s that it makes sense. Like, that film deserves to exist in our timeline. Yeah, that was his first producer credit on his film company. And after that, oh yes, he starred obviously in it. He acted in it. He was Hamlet, like I said. But a few years later, 93 is when he made his directorial debut with a film I actually did enjoy. It was called The Man Without a Face. And what it is that this boy moves into a new town and he's being bullied or whatever the case may be. And he befriends the stranger next door who's disfigured. He's a disfigured professor. It is Mel Gibson.
I have never seen this movie, but I did just look at a picture. And my God, are the prosthetics so bad in the 90s?
The prosthetics are bad, but the acting was good. And it introduced the world to Nick Stahl, which, you guys might know him from the third Terminator. He was like this.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a good film. But despite the career, Mel Gibson's hot streaks and everything, Mel Gibson was plagued by a variety of different personal and legal issues that he's dealt with throughout his life, and many of which were tied to his well-known documented struggles with alcohol abuse. So he was claiming to have started drinking back when he was 13. So just let that sink in.
I mean, no one probably knew or gave a shit as to where he was when there's 11 kids. So there's room for you to do that.
Yeah, there's plenty of room for you to do that and act out.
Try to get attention.
And then that adds to it because it's the whole complex. It's like me. I need to be seen.
Right.
So you don't deal with those issues as a kid. They manifest into something else later in adulthood. We all know about that. It's one of the reasons why he had to take off from acting on several different occasions just to recover from his alcoholism and, events that might have came as a result to that.
Has he ever rehabbed?
He He has rehabbed. He claims to have rehab. We're going to get to that about his sobriety now, because nowadays he claims to be sober for sure. But there's the timeline of him stating when he's sober doesn't, in my eyes, doesn't match up to incidents we're going to talk about. So, but during his mid 30s, he said that he even contemplated suicide because of the problems controlling his alcohol consumption habits, along with the additional trouble that it had caused for people close to him. So this became a huge issue, or this was more evident back in 2006 when he ran into some trouble with the law. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty now.
With the law.
With the law. Breaking the law. On July 28th, 2006 at 2:36 a.m.
Nothing good happens after 2 a.m.
Nothing ever fucking good happens 2 a.m. I was about to say that's the witching hour, but no,
it's almost the witching hour. For those who aren't witches, the 3 o'clock hour is the witching hour.
But yeah, it was 2:36 a.m. Mel Gibson was pulled over on Pacific Coast Highway after local authorities found him driving at 87 miles per hour within 45-mile zone.
Good. That's good. Good job, Mel.
He was doing quite a bit. And I mean, again, for where he's at Pacific Coast, those are some windy ass highways,
I was gonna say, and it's dark. I mean, are there lights on the Pacific Coast Highway? I've never been, but
there might be lights now. But 2006, I damn sure know there was not that many lights lighting that up. So you're just driving about twice the speed, basically. Not a care in the world because you're Mel Gibson.
Roads. Yep.
That's already no, thank you. And get this, at the time that he was pulled over, he had also been pulled over just 5 days prior for speeding in Malibu.
What? He needs a timeout. He needs a fucking timeout.
Some people just like to continue to speed no matter if they get in trouble about it or not. But damn, dude, 5 days ago. And clearly you got off fine, so now you're doing it again.
Well, when there's no consequence.
It's just stupid. When the authorities came over to check on his blood alcohol content level, at the time they found that he had 0.12% alcohol content in his blood.
God damn.
After being informed that he was being arrested for drunk driving, he began to act out all belligerently.
Oh, go figure.
He refused to be taken into custody, but it gets better because it's Mel Gibson here. We just told you, middle child, alcohol problems since he was 13. Clearly, he likes to get his way, attention seeking. You're not just going to, how dare you people think you're just going to take Mel Gibson and arrest him like it's nothing? He's fucking Mel Gibson.
Did he just start like screaming lines from his movies as he's running down the street?
Honestly, if he did that, that probably would have been more appropriate, but no.
You will not take my freedom!
He took it to a whole other level. While he was still intoxicated, Gibson proceeded to blurt out profanities and anti-Semitic statements to the officers, claiming that the Jews are responsible for all the wars in the world.
No, sweet Jesus.
And then he went on to ask the officer if he was a Jew, before proceeding to insult one of the female officers on duty by calling her sugar tits. Like, this man just...
Sugar tits. I mean, hold on. So much to unpack in that sentence.
There's a whole lot to unpack. Take your time unpacking all that shit because...
So the Jews are responsible for every war ever, per Mel Gibson.
Per Mel Gibson, just blurting that out.
And his drunken rants.
He asked one of the male officers if he was a Jew.
And then he looked at the girl and was like, "What's up, sugar tits? Want to let me leave?"
Yeah.
This is horrible. What is wrong with this man? I've never heard the sugar tits part of the story. And it's
really? You've never heard of it?
Yeah, I never did. That's so ridiculous. There's no way you're going to gain anything that you might want by calling another woman sugar tits.
I wish I could have just been there in ghost form behind a tree witnessing this shit, because it's like, sir, you just nonchalantly went full anti-Semitic. And what, did you think in your drunken stupor you could do the old Mel Gibson / George Clooney? They both have similar moves where every fucking movie, they get real gravelly and they're like, this is the way that things are. Look down, look up again directly at you. And they're like, but it could be better with me. Like, they always do shit like that. Now that I said it, go back and look at George Clooney. Go back and look at Mel Gibson. They always do it. That was their thing. So I'm just trying to understand. Did he go very anti-Semitic and then look down, look up, and he's like, sugar tits, like, you gonna let me go?
I wish for everyone's sake that this was a visual medium, because Justin's acting skills were par for none just now. They were glorious. Yeah, I just don't know. The thing is, we all know that when drunk people show themselves, it's who they truly are. Like Justin, right, for people who don't know, turns into like a prim and proper man. He should have a bow tie on, white gloves, and a top hat. He's so proper when he's drunk. It's hysterical. Mel Gibson coming out with all this like anti-Semitic, misogynistic bullshit makes you think that more than likely this is who he is as a person without the filters. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, exactly. No one just happens to get drunk and become anti-Semitic. You've had these thoughts for a long time, perhaps, again, because you lived within Australia. Australia, they have a specific view sometimes on the rest of the world that's a little racist or anti-Semitic. That just came off to me as those stereotypical people that they get drunk, they get ultra racist, and they're like, I'm sorry, that's not me. That was my father or my grandfather talking. I don't know, man. That sounded like you were fucking talking to me.
I heard you.
And I definitely heard you talking to me. That's a little different.
And that guy's always in the parking lot after he's done something stupid in a bar, crying, saying, I don't want to be this guy. I want to change. But Mel Gibson it's not something that was just on the fly. Clearly, this has been on your brain for a while. The sugar tits thing, I mean, that could have been on the fly. You're trying to be seductive, but the anti-Semitic stuff. Bad. Yeah. So, needless to say, things did not go well for Mel Gibson. I mean, he was arrested on misdemeanor drunk driving charges, and he eventually pleaded no contest when he appeared in court just a few weeks later in August of 2006. Here we go with the celebrity bullshit. He was sentenced to 3 years of probation, and he was ordered by the court to attend self-help meetings several times a week during the first year of his probation. Additionally, after that, his license was only restricted for 3 months, and he was required to pay $1,300 fine as part of his punishment for the crime. This is all slap of the wrist shit. Oh my God. People lose their license for years for doing things like that. Yeah, for sure. And then $1,300 we know is a joke in his world. It's probably like chump change, or he spent that on drinks that night.
Exactly.
God, that's frustrating.
It's so stupid.
So once again, no real consequences.
None at all. And there's some theories on that, which we're going to get to in a little bit. I mentioned before about me, and it's not about me. It's about me, M-E-E. Out of the group of officers that arrested him that night, there was one Jewish officer, and that was the one he verbally abused, and his name was James Mee. He was accused of sending 4 pages of police reports to TMZ that included the quotes that Mel Gibson had said. As a result, the LAPD decided to pursue disciplinary action against him, which led to him being fired from the force in 2012.
Get the fuck out of here.
Now, it's a whole fucked up scenario. When they fired him, he actually went to court. He went to take on the LAPD, and he had stated flat out, my life changed forever when I arrested him, because the higher ups didn't want that arrest to stick. They didn't want the charges to stick. And because I was doing my job, he said he had a clean record. He had never been in trouble for anything prior until he arrested Mel Gibson. Ever since then, he's like, the way they constantly check on him, try to write him up. They were looking for an out.
Yeah, they were looking for something, right?
And then they made this claim. It was never proven that he leaked that stuff out. And to this day, he swore he didn't. But he took them to court about it. And
how many other officers were there? It could have been any of them.
Exactly. There was about 3 officers.
Could have been the girl in the photocopy room, for all they know. It was like, hey, look, this could get me some money.
Yeah, it could have been anyone. Call me sugar tits. Okay, TMZ is gonna hear about
this, sucker.
Watch this sucker. Honestly, though, if he would have did that now, he definitely would have been canceled. But we're gonna discuss that.
It's a very different age now.
Yeah.
But what's worse about that, and this is just my opinion, but I think that the sugar tits part would have gotten him canceled, and the anti-Semitism would have been swept under the rug the same way it was swept under the rug in 2006.
I hate to say it, but I do agree with that.
It's infuriating, but the way society addresses things, it's just not always fair.
They're like, we're going to go with the lesser of 2 evils. Yeah.
Yeah. And what sucks too is that Mee probably lost his pension, probably lost his ability to police anywhere, because if you get fired from the LAPD.
Exactly. So after years of fighting the LAPD, they ultimately did end up reinstating him to the department.
Well, but they probably just stuck him at a desk, and put him somewhere in a corner.
And all that money that he spent to fight them, like, it's such bullshit. But ultimately he came back. Like you said, his career will never be the same. I'm sure he's probably at a desk somewhere.
Yeah, that sucks.
He was
bullshit. Probably one of those cops who actually did his job in a way that meant a lot to him. He wasn't crooked like the rest of them.
And it's just for me, it's really infuriating because, like, in retrospect, his livelihood was destroyed more than Mel Gibson's.
100%.
Mel Gibson was able to go on and still have movies released just a few months short after his incident, which is a mind fuck for me. In the aftermath of the incident itself, Mel Gibson had his publicist release 2 separate apologies regarding the events that took place during that DUI arrest.
Blah, blah, blah.
He also went live on TV to make another apology during an interview with Diane Sawyer. Over the years, he has continued to ask for forgiveness during multiple public appearances, stating that it was an unfortunate incident and that he was very loaded and angry during his arrest. He claims the officers had illegally recorded during the whole ordeal. And after the arrest, his publicist also stated that he entered a recovery program to help combat his alcoholism.
Like, you can't win. You're like, put a body cam on, but don't illegally record me.
Yeah, like... It's so stupid. Despite the fact that he made an effort to apologize for the incident on multiple occasions, this was not his first or last incident where he was caught spewing racist or homophobic remarks.
Go fucking figure.
And as what I was telling y'all before, I'm like, when you hear Mel Gibson, you've all heard about some incidences. Just a few years later, in July of 2010, he was caught on a leaked recording with Russian artist, his girlfriend at the time, Oksana Grigoreva. He was saying racial slurs and stating that if she were to get raped by a pack of niggas, yes, I went there. I said I had to say the line. As a black man, even me saying this, repeating what Mel Gibson said, is just like really fucking annoying me. Here's the thing. When you're drunk, you say things. You mean them.
Yeah.
My thing is, you're saying the most racist, hateful shit. So you've had these ideas forever, and now you're just launching them out, and now you're just trying to see what sticks.
This is just who he is. He's just a racist piece of shit.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with that particular incident, you can read transcripts online. You can even go to YouTube and listen to half of the recordings, because what happened is he legitimately would just be calling her. Like, he would call her while he's in the car, and he would just be going off, and you just hear her like, okay, all right, well, okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Oksana.
He also was banned from going near her and her daughter because of the domestic violence related restraining order placed against him, which the LA County Sheriff's Department launched an investigation based on that, but was later dropped when he pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor battery charge. Even before the DUI incident, Winona Ryder, which we just talked about Winona Ryder recently, guys. Check out that episode.
Winona.
But yeah, Winona Ryder claimed that Gibson had insulted one of her gay friends at a party back in the 90s by asking if he would get AIDS from him. And he also asked if that person was an oven dodger. Do you see that shit there? The whole pattern.
Oh my God.
It always comes back to the anti-Semitism with him.
Oh my God. Am I going to get AIDS from you?
I mean, that alone I would have been like, Mel, you have to get the fuck out the party. God. Like, you're going to have to leave.
An oven dodger. I can't.
When something about Jews came up in the conversation, he brought that up and asked about the oven dodger. And to this day,
and that's the thing, right? So, like, he can't even claim people are making this shit up about him, because it is so specific that I wouldn't even think to put all those words together in a fucking sentence. This has to come out of the same person.
Exactly. But the thing that blows my mind is you just say the shit so nonchalantly.
Like, I bought bread today.
But it also puts things in perspective, too. Mel Gibson, I'm just trying to figure out how I want to say this. Mel Gibson could probably be decent to work with, but at one capacity that I've always noticed growing up, because as a black man watching all these films, it is what it is. Besides Lethal Weapon, like when you're looking at interviews or you see shit on the outside, you never see Mel Gibson with black people. And I just always wondered, like, How would that go if he's at a party with Denzel Washington and he sasays some real racist shit there? Like, is Denzel going to punch this man in the face?
100%. Because Denzel is the keeper of the justice.
Does Hollywood, is everyone just self-aware? They're like, oh, Mel Gibson, you know, we got to keep him away from Jewish people. We got to keep him away from these other people. Does he just hire a wrangler and they make sure that usually he's on his best behavior at parties and at events to get away? Yeah.
A wrangler can only do so much.
So, yeah, I'm gonna have to do some research on that because I feel like even Lethal Weapon interviews, I never seen him and Danny Glover interact. I don't know. Winona Ryder claimed those things, and Mel Gibson to this day denies them.
Oh, please.
Although he's been able to face his fair share of controversies throughout the years, Mel Gibson has still been able to continue to find success in Hollywood long term, despite initially being blacklisted after his 2006 DUI incident.
Even being blacklisted, his version of blacklisted was, well, fuck all of you, I'll go do it myself.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. He's like, I can still do this shit and you're still going to watch it. You know, He faced some backlash after his arrest and was even boycotted in Hollywood for a very short period of time. However, the boycott never really stuck. It never went into full effect. As one of his movies that he directed, Apocalypto, it was just released 5 months later after the incident.
Ridiculous.
And then he starred in another studio movie, Edge of Darkness, in 2010, less than 4 years from where the first incident occurred.
You look at people who are blacklisted, and they're blacklisted for decades, if ever they come back.
And I get it. You know, he does his whole PR thing and he's had some other people endorse him. Like I specifically remember back when Robert Downey Jr. had just made his comeback because of Iron Man and everybody was looking at him.
Speaking of blacklisted, that man was actually blacklisted
for a very long time, for over a decade and a half. But Robert Downey Jr. even brought him on stage for an award ceremony. And he was like, you know, Mel helped me back in the day and I'm helping him. I'm asking you to give him a second chance. And you know, people take that to heart because, again, Robert Downey Jr. really did turn his life around. Someone gave him a chance. It worked out. So people on the strength of that's like, let's listen to RDJ and help out Mel Gibson. But again, Mel Gibson continued to do that shit like the 2010 arguments and racist comments I told you. And
yeah, I feel like RDJ has a lot more redeeming qualities than Mel Gibson does.
Yeah. It's safe to say that the events that transpired during his drunk driving arrest did very little to prevent him from finding work in the movie industry. And in a grand scheme of things, he's still able to land leading roles in his blockbuster films up until now, other than 4 years after the DUI arrest. I don't really watch Mel Gibson products. Like I don't watch Mel Gibson movies. If he's starring in them, for the most part, I don't watch them. The only thing I have watched him in as of late, there's two things. And it, like in the span of like 10 years, there's only two things. I did Hacksaw Ridge because at the time it was clever on their part. I didn't even know he directed it. I watched it solely for Andrew Garfield, Sam Worthington, Vince Vaughn. It had an all-star cast, which was predominantly Australian. I should have realized. Then it wasn't until it got nominated for Best Picture where they were like, Mel Gibson is Best Director. Like they had kept that quiet the whole time.
And you're like, record scratch.
And I saw some other movie recently I was watching for Frank Grillo called Boss Level. It was a Hulu movie. And I swear to God, the poster only showed me Frank Grillo. And like 10 minutes into the film, it's Frank Grillo and Mel Gibson. And that's them the whole movie. And I'm like, well, fuck.
What a
all right.
bizarre combination that is.
It was. The movie's kind of wonky, but I liked it as an action film. It was good. It was good.
I like Frank Grillo. He's great.
He's so underrated. I love him. Love him. As of right now, I haven't heard him say anything in a long time, but hold on a second. I got to look at my phone really quick because I mapped it out. The sobriety thing that I wanted to mention earlier. I'm like, this motherfucker, it does not.
So we know at least in 2006, he was drunk driving. So is that where we're going to start?
You know what? We could technically start there. Yeah. Back in 2016, he got a lot of backlash for this. 2016, he says, he's been sober for 10 years. How is that possible when, okay, if you're counting the DUI, that was 10 years ago, but buddy, you had your rant in 2010. So how are you saying you're 10 years so?
Hold on a second. That's not how we count things.
That's not how we count. You've technically not been sober because when you guys listen to the tapes and things like that, he pled guilty, but he also states that he was high at the time, cocaine and alcohol, all these other things. So you were not sober.
No.
But okay, he's just pretending that event never happened. I don't know. Maybe it's a PR move.
Right.
But
yeah.
In 2016, he said he was 10 years sober. That's a damn lie. You were not 10 years sober. You were
damn lie.
Air quotes sober. And then July of 2010, you said the crazy shit that you said, and you were high and all these other things.
Right.
You go back to 0 days of incident. You see all the little paper numbers you have up there. Yeah, it's getting wiped out. The countdown is back at 0, my friend. So in 2016, maybe you were 4 or 5 years sober, if that. I don't know you. I don't really know what you do, but
and sober by his own definition. It sounds
sober
like.
by your own definition. For all I know, his sobriety, he could be like, I haven't been racist in 10 years. But even then he was lying because you were.
I've been sober from being a racist asshole. Hilarious.
Right. And folks, listen, I do believe in second chances. I believe in all of that. However, I'm not down with this whole fad where we're like, we have to give these toxic people second chances, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they deserve a second chance, but we need to look at the extenuating circumstances before I give the second chance. You can't tell me, oh, Mel's going to change when for over a decade, there has been a lot of incidences that keep relaying the whole racism and all these other undertones.
You got to believe people at face value.
Yeah.
He showed the world who he is. Underneath that whole celebrity facade, he's just an asshole who believes a whole bunch of really shitty things. And he doesn't have any fear about saying them out loud. Yeah, I think that we're beyond second chances. I agree with you. There's so many people we don't give second chances to, but then we give someone like this asshole a second chance, and it makes no sense to me.
Exactly. So, quote unquote, he got his second chance after the DUI of 2006. And in my mind, he's already fucked up his second chance in 2010.
Agreed.
Yeah. For me, Mel gets no more chances. Honestly, I just want accountability too. Come back to mainstream. If you want to return to Hollywood, that's great. But firsthand, you're going to have to address the elephant in the room. Mm-hmm. And I just need you to be accountable now. If I see that, then we're square, man. But if I don't see you taking accountability and we're just going to pretend that these things in history didn't happen, I can't fuck with you. That's just me.
Justin's canceling Mel Gibson. Justin Trice has canceled you, sir. You are on the list.
Sometimes it may seem like once certain entertainers and artists reach a certain level of fame, they're able to get away with nearly anything, no matter how problematic they are, despite making controversial remarks or doing certain things that are against the law, which may put other people in hot water. It seems like those individuals are almost able to get away with their actions with little to or no repercussions at all, which is so frustrating. Knowing that they can almost make someone feel invincible or like they can pretty much get away with anything. This is why it's important for us to be able to shed light on their transgressions of the past, no matter how good or bad they are, in order to help people see the full picture and gain a better understanding of who they really are as individuals,
Yep.
But yeah, that's the story of Mel and me.
It all becomes clear.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hold on to your butts, folks, because this one's a toughie.
oh no. So that was such a smile.
I found this TV show on TNT. It's called Rich and Shameless. I'll probably cover a couple of these episodes because they're right up our alley. But this one was about Girls Gone Wild, and it was titled Girls Gone Wild Exposed.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it. So the opening of the episode, you have on-screen text saying we're in Punta Mita, Mexico in 2020. And we're looking at a beautiful beach at dusk. It's calm and serene. It's all purples and blues and, the ocean
I can get
sounds,
into that. Okay.
Right? Yeah, except the soundtrack that's playing over this beautiful scene is like completely the opposite. So what's playing is the audio of a recording of a woman screaming at a man named Joe. And she started recording because she's afraid for her life. And she even says, like, I'm going to record. Like, she says it in the very beginning.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And you hear the man abusing her. Like, she's crying and saying, you're hurting me. And he's calling her horrible things. So if any of you choose to watch this, be prepared for that and like 5 million other triggerable scenarios.
Of course.
It's really jarring and it's like truly terrifying, the dichotomy between the scene they're playing and how horrific that this recording is. And I actually, in my notes, wrote, shame on you, TNT. That shouldn't have been used in that way. I just didn't appreciate the way that they used it. I think that when you have a platform and you're going to tell a story, you have a responsibility. And I feel like in doing it this way, I wasn't impressed, I guess. So we flash, and the first talking head we meet is a woman named Brooke Burke, and she is a 2000s TV host for a show called Wild On. I don't remember this show at all.
Wild On? Yeah, I don't. It's not ringing a bell.
She said that Girls Gone Wild infomercials used to play often during the show because it looked similar on its face. So you had young, attractive people in pool parties and colorful, skimpy bikinis, but that's pretty much where the similarities ended. Anyone who grew up in our generation remembers these infomercials.
I'm totally having flashbacks of just... And it was on all the time. And even like on, I feel like kids networks, like sometimes these commercials, depending on the hour of the day or hour of the night, they just started playing them. It's like, do you want to see wild and fun girls? Yeah. Do you want to party with the most exotic? Yeah. And you're just like, what the fuck is this?
What the fuck is happening? Well, and the thing is like, it was just a different age. There were literally infomercials for everything. It was like...
Truth.
Buy a turkey roaster or a Kids Bop CD. Here's a commercial and a phone number. Call now and get 2 for 1, whatever. So,
oh my goodness. I was just explaining to someone younger than us by like a decade or so.
They never knew about infomercials.
Well, yeah. And I was like, there used to be like CD collections for everything. So I'm like, it got to a point where certain songs I hear now, whenever I hear them, I only hear the first few lines of the song before it fades into the next song that was part of that infomercial. So it's like Time Classic presents like smooth R&B, and it's like smooth operator. I like the way you work it. Like it's all just the order of all of it's embedded in my brain. So
that's awesome. I mean, I remember seeing these Girls Gone Wild infomercials, and I remember being like kind of desensitized to it.
Yeah.
And like you said, it would play during like kids shows. I don't know how they got away with that. And I remember like very vividly my dad saying like, God help you if you ever end up on anything like this. I'll fucking kill you and bury you in the backyard. And
I can hear your dad saying that.
Yeah. It's very, if you knew my dad,
it's on
my
brand.
Dad, he's probably listening to. And I mean, I was never that party girl, but yeah, he probably would have killed me. Him and my 2 brothers. So Brooke Burke says that the fact that it was so acceptable back then is mind-blowing to me, and it's totally bananas. And she's right. I mean, in this episode, they show you a clip, and it's Lindsay Lohan on the Regis and Kelly show, and it must have been in like the Freaky Friday days because she's really young. She's like a teenager. And Kelly Ripa is asking her if she's had any enhancements or boob job.
Oh no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's just like wildly inappropriate. And Lindsay Lohan's response is like, I can't believe you're asking me that. I'm not even like fully developed yet. And she's embarrassed and she puts her hands over her face. And I mean, this poor girl, no wonder she's like been through the fucking ringer. Shame, Kelly Ripa. What is wrong with you? Women need to protect each other.
Seriously. Yeah, you basically threw her under the bus and perpetuate that whole sexualization of like these young girls in Hollywood. It's very sickening.
Exactly. And like if you had allowed Regis's old ass to look at her and be like, you get your boobs done, it would have been like really wildly inappropriate. But we allowed Kelly Ripa to do it and somehow it becomes acceptable. But all this to say that society early to mid 2000s allowed young women to be hypersexualized, and it was just the normal way that we treated them. Joe Francis was the face of Girls Gone Wild, the way that Hugh Hefner was the face of Playboy. Joe Francis went to the University of Southern California, so if you can picture him now, he went for business and ended up getting a production assistant job on Real TV. Do you remember that show?
Yes, I remember Real TV showing all the car chase videos and all other random things. Yeah.
So like For example, it was like CCTV footage of a guy robbing a gas station and someone's like commentating over it. You see all these like horrible things happening in the video. So he started seeing footage that they weren't able to use on the show because it was too violent. And he took those clips and he bought them and he put them on a DVD called Banned from Television. And then he bought infomercial time. And he made a fucking killing. That
was some smart shit. And I remember Banned from TV, and I remember the Faces of Death VHSs too. Yes. It's like all this raw footage of like again, we were desensitized to all this shit, but we were watching some shit we were not supposed to. Why are we not all
psychotic?
I don't know.
Well, so the internet just didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
So like the want to watch all of these horrible things, it exists now and it existed then. And there was just no avenue to get to it until you fucking get assholes like Joe Francis who put all these horrible things on a VHS tape and mail it to your house. So in the clips that he was finding, there were women flashing at the beach, like beach parties. And these women were getting arrested for indecent exposure. And he realized that he could use this one party that he had to make an entire DVD. And so became the Girls Gone Wild franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw a market and he ran with it. So eventually he said, why am I buying this footage when I can just go make my own? And all these talking heads are saying that he's a great businessman and he saw this gap between soft and hardcore porn. And his business model was, hey, I don't need to pay the actors. I'll just give them a t-shirt.
Wow. I'm not saying I approve of what he's doing. I'm just admitting that in terms of his business skills, I mean, he was doing some next level shit. Like, who would have thought to buy all the real TV footage, let alone all this additional footage first?
Had he put a third of his genius to anything else, he could have been curing diseases, but instead he's doing this. In sales, he had $20 million in revenue, and he sold 4.5 million copies of these DVDs. He was a fucking rock star. He had Ferraris and private jets. He had a mansion in Bel Air because, of course, he did.
Yeah.
He had famous girlfriends like Paris Hilton and Kourtney Kardashian, and he was actually rumored to have been the one who released the Kardashian sex tape, and he was put up to it by the Kardashian family. So, I mean, it was the rise of the reality TV star. Bad behavior was celebrated and people were becoming famous for making huge public mistakes. And Joe exploited that and he took advantage of all of these women. So there's a darker side to the Girls Gone Wild world that I'm sure we could have all guessed existed.
Oh, yeah.
They show a clip of a young woman sitting on a couch with no shirt on. She's just wearing a bra. And you hear Joe in the background say, take your bra off. This is Girls Gone Wild. And she's giggling and shaking her head no, very clearly. But he keeps goading her. Come on, that's not wild. Please take your bra off. Please, I'll be your best friend, which makes me want to puke. And she sits there and she's like shaking her head no repeatedly. And then he's on her phone talking to her parents saying, hey, this is Joe Francis. We have your daughter here. She's going to be on Girls Gone Wild. Are you okay with that? She said she doesn't care. Ha, ha, ha. And the girl's giggling. It's fucking gross. Yeah. He just didn't take no for an answer. And he would manipulate these women in these scenarios. And I remember being like a young woman, and not that I found myself in this kind of a situation, but it's easy to feel powerless in the face of someone like him.
Exactly. And he was taking advantage. He was using his age against them and taking advantage to coerce them.
Well, his age, his celebrity, his money, her own parents. I mean, it's just like couldn't get any. She had no defenses, except for her own gusto.
I thought, I didn't realize. I thought you were joking. I thought, for instance, he was joking on the phone. I didn't really know that he actually spoke to them. I thought he was faking the call. Oh my God. What's with all these fucking people? Serious. That's like the other story you did where he's like talking to the parents. I'm gonna get her into Playboy. Is that okay? Oh my gosh,
dude, protect your kids. At the end of the day, though, right? Like, I would go through the phone and fucking murder someone if I got that phone call. So it's unfathomable to me. But yeah, him and his film crew and the host that he brought in were made to have these women feel like this was totally normal behavior and that it wasn't predatory in its purpose. So we meet former cameraman Joe Daly, and he said he found the job on Craigslist, which is so 2000. house.
Listen, we've all done some Craigslist shit. I done sold on there. We done bought stuff off of there.
I can think of at least 3 scenarios where I've been sitting outside someone's house to go buy or sell something and like calling Justin, being like, this is the address I'm at. If I go,
100%. You definitely texted me the address. I would do the same. I'm like, I'm going to do this thing with this console here. Here's the address in case something happens to me.
I don't want to die. So in case,
Wow, what were we thinking? We were bold fools.
Dude, it was a different age. Different age, man. Joe Daly said that there were things that the cameramen were told that they needed to do, like don't wear all black, look approachable, don't be a creep, which, I mean, I guess you need to do those things in order to get the women to do the things you're asking them to. So essentially there were 2 objectives as a cameraman. One was to get the girls to flash you in the clubs that you went to or bars. And the other was to try to get them to come back to the Girls Gone Wild bus, where you had more control over the environment. And he explains this all with a straight face, like he just told us how to fucking pump gas. Like this is that menial rather than it being like predatory premeditation. And you see a video and you hear the guy and he says, kiss your friend, we'll give you more alcohol. And she says no. And he says, okay, if you don't want to do that, maybe touch yourself. And this is the cycle, right? It's the same thing. These girls are constantly saying no, and they're constantly goading them on and pressuring.
And he's like, I'm going to keep asking. Yeah.
Add the pressure. It's light and it's lighthearted in nature.
Yeah, that's some high level predatory shit. Yeah.
No doubt. So Joe Francis's company was called Mantra Films. That's where he produced these movies through. And essentially, the company itself was tricking people into a monthly subscription plan for these videos. So people would think they were buying one video, and essentially they bought a subscription, and monthly they were getting these videos at their mailboxes.
That's how they get you.
And even if they tried to cancel, he would run them again. I mean, that's not a crime all on its own, outside of everything else I'm about to tell you.
I mean, a lot of places did that back then, even in the 90s. I'm looking at you, Columbia House. You're going to send me 12 CDs for 10 cents, right? And then I'm stuck in this subscription for life.
Right. So then we meet a journalist from Vanity Fair, and he says Joe was selling the idea that every woman, no matter how young and innocent, was a highly sexualized being that will do anything if you had just asked her.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
And the reality is that he wasn't just tricking girls into showing their boobs. It was convincing girls essentially to have sex with each other. That's what this ended up, progressing to. So there's a big difference between taking your top off and having fun and then having them sign a commercial release contract for videos that are going to haunt these girls for the rest of their lives.
Right.
There was a woman who woke up the next day and told her dad what had happened. And he took her to the Mantra Films office. And they spent 5 whole minutes in the lawyer's office. And that's all it took, because the legal action stops when the film shows these women showing their IDs to the camera and giving consent and signing these forms, no matter how intoxicated they appear.
This guy, man, he's just like a fucking evil. He's a mastermind.
He's an evil genius is what he is.
He has all of these loopholes. He had everything ironclad tight, legality-wise. He's like, I know I'm fucking them over, but it doesn't matter. It's the law. Like, that's crazy.
He got it all figured out, dude. We meet the editor of some of these videos, and he says that Joe Francis came into his office after that girl and her father left. And he said, I want that girl in this film, and I want you to put her on the cover. So him winning legally wouldn't be enough. He had to stick it to her for fucking bothering him.
He had to humiliate her.
Exactly.
That's his way of sending a message. That's so fucked up. That's vile.
Yeah, and he's a petulant child, obviously. So we meet Michelle Padilla, and she is the first woman to sue Joe Francis in the Girls Gone Wild franchise.
Good. I'm glad somebody is trying to right now.
I got a few stories for you. So she had no idea she was even being filmed. She was in a video and on the cover, which is somehow that's worse.
Yeah.
She said she was at a lake party, where they take boats and they tie them together.
Mm-hmm.
And there were guys on these little dinghies going around going, show it your boobs. And she and a friend pulled their bathing suits to the side and flashed them. But there were no cameras visible. And it was later found out that whatever was filmed on a zoom lens, which is so fucked up.
Oh, my God.
So Girls Gone Wild wasn't advertising that they were there, and she didn't sign a release, and they ended up settling out of court. So we don't know for what or for how much.
Oh, man, I hope it was a decent amount, but I'm nervous because you're talking undisclosed now. You never know how that goes.
Yep. This was all part of his business plan, though. Like, his records show $198,000 one month was spent on his legal team, but he only paid $3,000 under talent. Right, because that's probably how much fucking t-shirts cost. So he'd pay the women nothing, and if they were bold enough to sue him, he'd just defend against them. We're going to go to Daytona Beach, Florida, spring break capital. And a young woman named Tabitha is approached by a guy saying there's a wet t-shirt contest and a cash prize. So she gets up there thinking this could be fun, and maybe I get some extra spending money for my trip. And we see footage, and they explicitly say in the documentary that she gave permission for them to show it.
Okay.
And it is Tabitha dancing on a stage in a rolled up, wet men's white tank top, like undershirt. And she's dancing, and she's all wet, and it's her and like 12 other girls. And she said at the beginning it was okay, but then it began to feel different and uncomfortable because it took a turn really fast.
I'm sure it did.
These women started to touch each other in sexual ways, and she was not into it. And when it was over, she got the fuck out of there. Fast forward 5 years. And she's contacted by a lawyer, and he says, hey, did you know you're the poster child for child pornography?
Whoa.
I mean, that's a little bit tacky, sir. I feel like we could have said that in a different way.
Wow.
Well, he's trying to scare her, into working with him, I guess. But nonetheless, 17-year-old Tabitha was filmed without her consent that day in Daytona Beach. And Girls Gone Wild plastered her image on posters, movie covers, and on the sides of the fucking tour buses. And after 5 years of legal battles, she also eventually settled out of court. So that's 2. The thing is, though, even with these women settling, the DVDs are still being sold. Even to today, you could go right now and buy these DVDs.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's no actual justice, whatever money means to you, I guess. But yeah.
I just feel bad for all these women because it's like, again, you plied them with alcohol. You basically harassed them until they consented. And it's like, yeah, they did that in a moment. Maybe some of them wanted to do it regardless. They were so young. It's like you fast forward 20 years now, and these are women with families and everything else. Like, God forbid their kids see this now. Like, this is just something that they can no longer escape because now it's on the internet. Now it's selling everywhere still. It's just bullshit. It's so bullshit.
Yeah, one moment defines so much.
Yeah.
So we meet Nicole, who at 25, she went out to a bar with her friends, and there was a bikini contest with cash prizes. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah. Right.
Again, guys with cameras, but no Girls Gone Wild information posted anywhere. No posters, no t-shirts, no advertising. So she said she was flattered by the attention, and good for her. And she ended up flashing the camera, and you see the video again, same. She gave permission. She's beautiful. She looks like Pam Anderson, like in her Baywatch days. But she looks very drunk in the videos. Really drunk.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, yeah, that's still terrible.
Yeah. Fast forward 3 years. Her boyfriend comes home from a night with his boys holding a Girls Gone Wild DVD saying they were watching it and she's fucking on it. She never signed any consent, and she had no idea that she was even in a Girls Gone Wild video.
So I need to process what you just said a second ago. Her boyfriend was at friend's house, and for fun, they just decided to watch a Girls Gone Wild, and he discovered that that was his own girlfriend in there.
Uh-huh. Yep, you got it.
That is some high-level Twilight Zone shit. Like, I'm waiting for Rod Serling to pop out the closet when he told his wife. Yeah, it's like, picture if you will. Like, this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, oh, God. To not even know that you were in this thing that's existed for how many years? 3 years? It's horrifying. So she sued, just like everyone else. And she said when she got to court, the lawyers for Mantra Films told her Girls Gone Wild was going to go under and that she should just settle for the $10,000 or risk getting nothing.
Okay.
So she took it. She took the $10,000. And lo and behold, they didn't go under. It was just a ploy, which is probably all he paid all the women when they sued him was $10,000.
Of course.
Right? So he's making millions of dollars. And this is just a fucking drop in the bucket to get them to shut up and go away. It's horrible. I mean, these tapes are ruining women's lives, right? They've being kicked out of college, their churches, and even their own homes by their own parents.
Exactly.
And the moments of drunken fun will outlive them, and they'll never escape the images that have been put out into the world. Even if they did sue, it didn't mean those tapes stopped being distributed or sold. And it's done, and it's out there. They're powerless. Nothing they can do. And things would have probably continued had Joe Francis not been arrested in Panama City Beach, Florida in 2003.
Uh-oh. Let's hear that.
Enter my favorite character in this entire episode. His name is Lee Sullivan, and he's the former mayor of Panama City Beach.
Okay.
And he is absolutely hilarious. So just to paint a picture for you, he is a tall, older man. He's got this bushy white mustache. Like, which character is that in Looney Tunes? Who's got the bushy white mustache?
Sam, right?
Yeah.
Yosemite Sam, yeah.
And he's got the cowboy hat and the shit kickers and the one-liners for days. So he says, and I quote, "If you told me that you and Kim Kardashian were buds, that wouldn't mean diddly squat to me. Celebrities are just people." And he said he was not going to let Joe Francis come into his city and film Girls Gone Wild because they were better than that. And then Girls Gone Wild, they claimed they were producing art and it was their constitutional right to be there, and they were making a documentary.
Wow. They're making an impact on the world.
Oh my God. Blow it out your ass. So Lee Sullivan was looking for something to pin on Joe Francis. And man, did this dirtbag deliver. He was filming underage girls in a shower. And Sullivan said, "Do you know what that little twit said to me?" He said he had them sign a waiver. Well, if they're under 18, that waiver doesn't matter.
Exactly. They're not legal to sign the waiver.
Yeah.
They're minors. They're still minors.
The police raided the condo that the Girls Gone Wild crew was staying in, and they confiscated everything. Joe was charged with intentionally including child pornography in Girls Gone Wild, prostitution, for paying two girls who were 17 years old to give him a hand job, and among so many other charges that he was looking at the potential of over 100 years in prison.
100?
100.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for him.
But lucky for him, he's got that legal team ready and waiting, and he spent one night in jail before going back to business as usual.
Jesus. And you know how much money he probably spent to pull that? Like,
probably not as much as you'd think or hope. Okay, so we meet Janelle, and she was a party girl that went to her same spot each week with her girlfriends. And she knew Girls Gone Wild was going to be there. And she was excited. She was excited for a celebrity like Joe Francis to come into town. And they didn't think that they would be picked for anything. But the idea of being close to partying with a celebrity was exciting to her. To each their own. To her surprise, she was handpicked by Joe Francis. He walked up to her and he said, "I pick you." And he brought her by her hand into the VIP section, and he gave her drinks and champagne. And she was excited, and she was blinded by that cool celebrity facade.
Mm-hmm. She was falling for it.
Oh, yeah. And she said he was a sweetheart to her. He was saying she was so pretty and asking if she wanted to go back on the bus and hang out with him. And she thought, sure. And I'm probably going to flash now because that's what you do, right? On that bus.
Oh, my gosh.
And honestly, I really appreciated how honest she was. She was not shameful, and not that there should be any shame. I'm not saying that. If you want to do porn, you want to show your body to anyone, do you, whatever makes you happy, right? As long as everyone is consenting adults, you knock yourself out.
And it's safe, yeah.
She was just very honest in how she felt in the moment, and I really appreciated how she brought that to the story because none of the other girls really had the opportunity to do that. So he takes her and another girl, her friend, back to the back bedroom on the tour bus and asks them if they want to be on Girls Gone Wild. And Janelle said, "I was almost blackout drunk," and was like, "Yeah, why not?" And after having her sign a release and show her ID to the camera, he asked her to go on the bed. And the only other people in the room were Joe and the cameraman. And they said, "Go on the side table. There's some toys in there we want you to use." She said she felt pressured into doing it because there's these two big guys telling her to do it.
Right.
So she did it, but she was intimidated into doing it. All of a sudden, the camera guy turns around and leaves. And Joe turned mean and he pushed her down on the bed and he sexually assaulted her.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she said, quote, "I did not give my consent. He totally raped me and he got off of me like I was a piece of garbage." She went to the police station to file a report. And like many women, she felt brushed off. And to this day, nothing has ever been done about it. No investigation. No one even spoke to him.
Not a single charge, nothing?
Nothing.
Wow.
Joe Francis acted like he was untouchable. I mean, he was an explosive narcissist who didn't respect women or anyone for that matter. Then something strange for even Joe Francis's life happened. One night after a party, he heads home and he finds that someone has broken into his Bel Air mansion. And the intruder holds him at gunpoint and makes him pretend to have sex with a dildo and videotapes it.
Wow. First off, that robber, that sounds like a hero.
A vigilante hero, yeah.
Vigilante. He's giving him a taste of his own fucking medicine, and I am here for it.
Dude, It gets better. Hold on. So he was told to say in the video, "I'm Joe Francis with Boys Gone Wild, and I like it up the butt." And we find out that this vigilante genius is named Darnell Riley. And he ended up going to jail for 10 years for that. Wow.
10 years. And he was probably, getting that revenge because this guy, Joe over here, fucking hurt someone he cared about or humiliated someone he cared about.
So, I mean, unfortunately, the cards were stacked against him. He's a young black man. And 10 years is a long time for something as insane as this.
That's
compared to the
long.
things that Joe Francis, we just talked about him literally sexually assaulting someone and nothing happening. 10 years is life altering to be in prison. But his attorney said, I don't think he was in it for any money or anything like that. He was just getting revenge for the treatment of another woman. And this is how he chose to do it. In 2007, Joe Francis is still awaiting trial for the charges in Panama City Beach of the two minors in the shower. So aside from the criminal charges, the two women who were now adults filed civil lawsuits against him. And talks start for a settlement because that's how he operates.
Exactly.
The attorneys walked into the office and they find Joe Francis sitting in a chair. And they sit. And Joe Francis says, "I'll give you one offer. You can suck my dick." He got up and walked out. I mean, the unending arrogance of this man.
This guy just has the gall. Yeah, he really thinks he's untouchable.
Yeah. Best part of that story is even in a civil suit, the judge was able to throw him in jail for contempt of court, which is fucking great. So he spent a month in jail in Panama City Beach, Florida. And there's a jailhouse interview where he's crying about being in his jail cell every night and waking up screaming. And he's wiping his eyes and he's all red and he's like hyperventilating. It's fucking fantastic.
He deserved every second of it. And not for nothing, like if I was the cop interrogating this arrogant asshole, I would have fucking slapped him with the dildo that was in evidence. Like, fuck around.
So while he's sitting in that jail cell crying like the little bitch that he is, the IRS fucking smacks him with tax evasion charges. Justin, I cackled when I was watching this documentary.
Listen, you can't escape the IRS.
Dude, the IRS will always find your ass, man.
They got Al Capone, like all the murders, everything he did, and he got off free every time. It was the IRS that got him.
Dude, there's no escaping the paper trail. That is money. So this idiot created $20 million worth of fraudulent, quote unquote, expenses. And he got shipped off to Reno to await trial. And he spends 11 months in prison there. So that's one whole year in 2007 so far. Okay. 1 year in prison. But he was still running his company from prison. He was in a low security facility. He had phones and internet and anyone can come visit him.
Wow.
So
the privileged life for sure.
Imagine. Yeah. So Joe goes back to Panama City to face trial, where he pleads no contest and is sentenced to 339 days in prison, which he served while he was in Reno, and he was set free, which I don't fucking understand. But they didn't explain it. So after being released from jail, he came out the same douchebag that he went in. Surprise, fucking surprise. He learned absolutely nothing.
Color me shocked.
Right. Doing a press conference, he said that the girls lied and showed fake IDs and the cameraman didn't work directly for him. Everything's cool. Cool. So, flash to 2011. A group of girls went out to the Supper Club, which is in LA, to celebrate their graduation. And Joe Francis took a liking to one of the girls, and he takes them back to his mansion in Bel Air. The girls got a weird vibe in the car, and they decided that they didn't want to be there anymore. And man, everybody listen to your instincts because they're always fucking right, man. They really, really are. If you got something screaming in the back of your head to get out, do it fast. Don't hesitate.
Get the fuck out.
But these girls didn't do that necessarily. And one of the girls was like, I don't think this is a good idea. She started to call a cab. And when she hung up, she felt Joe grab her by the back of her neck, and he pushed her to the floor, and he repeatedly banged her head against the floor 4 or 5 times inside of his house. I mean, he's psychotic. He's like an actual fucking monster, this man.
That's insane. He just went from 0 to 100 with that. He just snapped.
So he turned to the other women and he said, do not call 911. I own the police. I own the LAPD. And they all ran out the door. And luckily that taxi she called actually came. And they had to take that injured woman to the hospital because her head was bleeding. A chunk of her hair had been missing. And she was most likely concussed.
My goodness. Yeah.
The LAPD contacted Joe Francis. And he had his lawyer call and say, that story's not true. It never happened. And that's all that we have to say on that. But the district attorney felt that they had enough and decided to file charges.
Finally, yeah. About damn time.
Right. So in 2012, Girls Gone Wild announced that they were going to do a new contest. I guess they were trying to stir up interest. And they did a Hottest Girl in America contest. And the unfortunate winner of this contest was a woman named Abby Wilson from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. She was 24 years old. People speculate that this was just Joe Francis's way of finding a girlfriend for himself.
100%. The moment you said that, that's all I thought about. I'm like, this guy is just trying to find someone for himself.
And he wants to date the hottest girl in America, right?
Mm-hmm. He's such a narcissist.
Stroke his ego some more. It worked. And they actually began to have a relationship. So she was 24. He was 40. I have so many feelings about that. So Joe had been hemorrhaging money at this point, and sales were way down because what he was selling lost all of its value, right? It's 2011, 2012. The internet is up and thriving. Instagram exists, Facebook, MySpace, whatever. All of these things are platforms that are making this version of selling sex available and free. 2013, he finally went to trial for assaulting that woman in his home who he banged her head around on the floor. Mm-hmm. And he didn't even appear for some of his days of his own criminal trial. The arrogance is unfathomable. So the jury found him guilty, and he was convicted of battery, false imprisonment, and intimidating a witness. And he was sentenced to 270 days in jail and 3 years probation.
That's it?
But here, well, it gets even worse. Here's the catch. In California, when you appeal a misdemeanor charge, you don't go to jail until the appeal hearing is completed. So that could be another 2, 3, 4 years. He didn't spend not even one day in jail. Okay. Leading back to the arrogance of this man, he, with all of his giant balls, called the LAPD detective who investigated the case that he was now appealing. And he said to her, I am leaving the country. Is there any way we can make this go away? And we meet her. She's telling us this story. And she's like, I said, no, this isn't going away. You did this. And he hung up on her. And she thinks that's the exact same day that he fled to Mexico.
Wow. The balls on this guy.
Dude, they're gigantic.
I'm leaving the country. I would have... Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy to me. He just doesn't give a fuck. He really thinks he's untouchable. No. So he had apparently built this enormous resort in Punta Mita, Mexico. And it's pretty much like a private hotel for the rich and famous. You can rent the whole resort for $35,000 a night. I wish I was rich.
Right? Mario Lopez got married there. Kim and Kanye honeymooned there. It's called Casa Aramara. And they have a website. You can look at it. It's gorgeous. And that's where he went in Mexico when he fled. So don't forget, he's got this relationship going with Abby Wilson. And it's lasted through all of this turmoil. They never got married, but at this point, they were together for 12 years. And they decided to spend money on IVF to make sure that they had twin girls. And Joe specifically wanted it to be girl.
My stomach just completely fucking turned inside out right now. I can't take this. I'm sorry. So
the whole concept behind it, based on his track record, is like incredibly surprising and really disturbing.
Yeah.
I don't know the intention. It doesn't make any sense to me. In the episode, we flash back to that beach from the beginning, and they're replaying that recording, right? So you have that blue, purple, calm, serene image playing. On top of that is a recording of who we now know as Abby Wilson screaming, "You're killing me," and Joe screaming, "Good, I hope you die." And Abby screams multiple times and yells, "You just stepped on my head, you stepped on my neck, you choked me." I mean, it's really, really, really awful. I have like a visceral physical reaction just even telling you about it.
I'm nodding my head in disgust basically right now.
It very, very easily could have just been us listening to him murder her. Like, it's truly terrifying. So because of that, Joe Francis spends 73 days in a Mexico jail on charges of domestic violence and intentional injury, and was released September 3rd, 2020. This is not long ago.
Damn, that was that was like right around the corner, basically.
Yep, we're in the middle of the pandemic, right? The beginning of the end times. The charges were dropped on the condition that he attended psychological therapy, and Abby Wilson was granted a temporary restraining order against Joe Francis, and she went into hiding with her twin daughters. Thank God. So today, this son of a bitch lives at Casa Aramara and is considered a legal resident of Mexico. And the U.S. will not extradite on misdemeanor charges. But if he ever comes back to the U.S., he'll go to jail because at this point he's considered a fugitive.
Of course.
But with that being said, all of these women have no justice. He's just out there still. And I have no doubt one day this fucker will get what he deserves in this life or the next life.
I was going to say he's going to have to meet his maker at some point. And when he does, He has a lot to answer for.
He sure does. But the truth is the consequences that he should be facing so far are minimal compared to what anyone else would have faced. I can't imagine how many women haven't come forward with their stories, because I'm sure if he's raped or assaulted one woman, he's definitely done it to multiple women. And he's just an evil piece of shit.
I'm just picturing all the lives he damaged, because
he's got an unending wake of damage.
Like you said, like your dad had said what he said to you. I'm sure other people's parents had said the same shit, and then ultimately they found out that their daughter was in this. That could have set them on a whole different path. They could have been disowned. There could have been a whole other thing happening there. He's
ruined people's lives.
Yeah.
And when I was doing the research, Abby Wilson actually shared screenshots of like her text messages with him, and she was asking him in the text if he was going to help pay for the kids' schooling. I guess they were in like a fancy school or a private school that had to be paid for because she couldn't afford it. And if he wasn't going to pay for it, she had to transfer them out of there. And he said, "I'm not paying for anyone I don't see. It's your problem now. I'll have kids with another girl."
Ooh.
He's just a disgusting, despicable human. I'm glad that she's out. I'm glad that those little girls.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're out.
Don't have to grow up with that kind of a person in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
You're the worst, Joe Francis. You're the worst. So yeah, that is the story of Girls Gone Wild Exposed. It's hard because young girls are so easily impressioned upon,
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel for them, because not that I found myself in scenarios as scary as theirs, but I could see how very easily even the strongest willed girl can find themselves in a situation that you didn't really mean to get into.
Exactly. Especially at the rate that he was pressuring and harassing them. Like, the walls are closing in.
Right. And he did it in a way that seemed non-predatory, and I'll be your best friend, right? All that stuff. And it's just gross. As an adult woman, I'm on fire, angry with hearing these things. But I remember being 20, 19, whatever, and feeling like those scenarios maybe weren't as dangerous as they were. So, me and my COVID ass are going to go lay in bed now.
Yeah, again, you're a trooper for recording this with COVID. Back when I had COVID, I don't think I had the energy or willpower.
Yeah, no, I think that was all. I think that was, I just depleted mine.
Your hatred for this man fueled you. Yes.
For sure. For sure.
When you look back at the history of the creative arts, it takes a lot of darkness to create the light the arts bring to the world.
Thanks for joining us this week. And if you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and go over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review.
Please check out our sources listed in the episode notes. They're amazing.
And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and all of the social platforms at Crime of the Arts Podcast.
We're looking forward to having you back next week. Until next time, peace out, everybody.
Peace out, everybody.